So, since I already showed you the logic behind the formula, I'm just going to give you the series formula and put it at the top of your paper so it's accessible. So n over 2 times the first term plus the last term. So this is similar to what we just did. If we want the total of this, in general on an exam, you're not going to know that this is an arithmetic series. You're going to know it's a series of some type because you're adding them all together. You have to realize it's arithmetic on your own just by realizing, okay, plus 2, and you can check at the end, plus 2. So it's an arithmetic, okay? There's those two questions I want you to ask when you look at something. And again, obviously today, everything's arithmetic series, so it seems odd to ask yourself these questions. But when this is the exam, and all these arithmetics and geometrics are combined, all the sequences and series are all combined, you have to ask yourself, is it arithmetic or geometric? And we know it's arithmetic. And is it a sequence question or a series question? And this is a series because we're adding everything together. So I would jump right to my series formula and start plugging in what I know, okay? I'm looking for my series total, so I don't know S sub n. I also don't, at the moment, know how many terms are here. My first term I do know is 1, and my last term I do know is 199. I know this is my last term, but I don't know if it's my 50th term or my 70th term or what. So I have two unknown pieces of information, which is my indication that, okay, I have to go back to my sequence formula and figure out what's missing, which is going to be the n. So if I jump back to my arithmetic sequence formula, and I'm just writing that down, I can now plug in what I know. My nth term is 199. My first term is 1. I don't know what n is. I don't know what term that is. As far as the numbered term, I just know that the actual value of it is 199, and my common difference was 2. So just like I had done on the board earlier, subtract 1, I get 198 equals n minus 1 times 2. Divide both sides by 2, I get 99 equals n minus 1. Add 1 to both sides, and your n is 100. So now I can go back and use 100 there. So 100 divided by 2 is, there are 50 pairs of 200. And 50 pairs of 200 is 10,000. Questions? The maze of formulas continues, but hopefully we get more comfortable with that. Okay. Let's jump to the next exercise below it. We're going to evaluate S sub n. So S sub n, I'm just going to write down the formula. What is my n value? 13. So S sub 13 equals. So what this is saying is that my series total through 13 terms is going to be what? So I have n is 13, so it's 13 over 2. They're giving us a sub 1 is negative 18. They're giving us a sub n is negative 102. So we're not really missing a thing here. Just type this into your calculator. 13 over 2 is 6.5, and this is negative 120. So 6.5 times negative 120 is negative 780. Okay, so even though we're not going to do this manually, the sum of the first 13 terms is negative 780. So manually that would look like this. Negative 18 plus the second term, plus the third term, plus the fourth term, dot, 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 plus the last term is going to all add up to negative 780. I couldn't really do this manually. Why not? I don't know what, Isaiah? The common difference, right? I don't know what the common... Could I find the common difference if they asked for it? Sure I could. I could go back to the sequence formula with this information, find D, and then I could do it manually. Obviously, you wouldn't do that, but I could find D if I wanted. Okay? The next exercise, they want the sum of these through 11 terms. So I know we know this is arithmetic because today's all arithmetic, but you just see the plus 2 pattern. So you would say, okay, it's arithmetic, check. They're asking me to add these all together, so it's a series, check. Okay, so write down your series formula. Okay. I do know that n is 11, so I'm looking for my series total through 11 terms. So n is 11. My first term is 10, and I have a problem, right? Because I don't know my last term. So I'm missing something. How do you find it? Go back to your sequence formula, which is here. A sub n equals a sub 1 plus n minus 1 times d. And I need to find a sub 11. I need to find that 11th and last term. So a sub 11 equals, a sub 1 was 10, plus 11 minus 1, and what was my common difference? 2. So my 11th term is 10 plus 10 times 2, which is 30. So if I now know my last and 11th term, I can go back and use that. So this will be 11 over 2 times 10 plus 30, which is 11 halves is 5.5 times 40. 220. So you might say, well, why wouldn't I just continue the sequence, get to my 11th term, and just type it all into my calculator? 10 plus 12 plus 14 plus 16 plus 18 plus 20 plus 22, and just get 11 of those. Absolutely. And in this situation, that might be faster, but the Common Core is going to give you an n of 300, and that is not going, or 3,000. They're going to make it absolutely necessary for you to use these formulas. So use these formulas to give yourself that practice. And I also like to give smaller numbers so that people can just can prove to themselves that it does work in a timely fashion. That's why I like to give you the smaller ones to start so we can be like, oh yeah, that does work out. That's exactly why when Isaiah asked his question about what is going to happen to that middle term, I just made up a smaller version so on a smaller scale we could wrap our head around it concretely and see what exactly happens. All right, now here's something interesting. Summation notation. Now, everything that we did yesterday was manual. We plugged in 1, we plugged in 2, we plugged in 3, we plugged them all in, added them all up. That was lovely, wasn't it? Until we have to go from 1 to 45. There has to be a shortcut, right? There's no way you're ever going to have to plug in 45 terms and add them all together by hand. Start the process, though. If I plug in a 1, what do I get? Negative 6. Plus, what if I plug in a 2? Negative 3. What if I plug in a 3? 0. Plus, dot, 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 and I have to do this supposedly up until 45. If I plug in a 45, 45 times 3 is 135. Minus 9 is 126. Because by doing that, I should have shed light on the fact that this is arithmetic, plus 3, plus 3, plus 3, right? I should have known it was arithmetic anyway, because isn't this linear with a slope of 3? Okay, something else to look out for. It's arithmetic, and they're asking me to add them all up. So it's an arithmetic series. Wonderful. We have a formula for that. S sub n equals n over 2 and then a sub 1 plus a sub n. So we're looking for our series total, essentially, through how many terms? 45. This is where that idea from yesterday is going to come in. From 1 to 45, that's 45 plugins. So S sub 45 equals 45 over 2. What's my first term? What's my last term? All calculator. 45 divided by 2 gives me 22.5 times, in parentheses, negative 6 plus 126 gives me 2,700. Okay? Next exercise. Is it linear? Is it exponential? Hopefully, because I don't want to plug in from 8 to 24. So there's a good indication it's one of the two of those. And since we're doing arithmetic series today, yes, you're right, it is linear. It is arithmetic. But, I mean, you could kind of, when you divide both terms by 2, it kind of turns it into that, doesn't it? Doesn't that look more linear to your eyes? Because you're so used to mx plus b. So it is linear. But let's pretend you didn't realize that. Start the process. When I plug in an 8, I get 24 plus 4, which is 28. 28 divided by 2 is 14. Plus, when I plug in a 9, 27 plus 4 is 31. 31 divided by 2 is 15 and a half. Plus, plug in a 10. That gives me 34 over 2, which is 17. Can you be convinced now that you're adding 1.5, adding 1.5, adding 1.5? Doesn't that make sense? Just a side note, because isn't your slope 1.5? Okay, plus dot dot dot. And the last term I would be plugging in would be a 24. 24 times 3 plus 4 divided all by 2 is a last term of 38. So I've realized it is arithmetic. I'm adding them all up. Use my arithmetic series formula. S sub, here's the big question mark. How many terms is this? If you plug in from the 8th term to the 24th term, what'd you say, Bo? 17. It's tempting to want to say 16 because that's the difference. But it's always one more than that, and it's easier to see here. 45 minus 1 would have told you 44 terms. But we all know that if you plug in 1 and 2 and 3, all the way up to the 45th term, you're plugging in 45. 1 through 45 is 45 numbers. So it's the difference of 16 plus one more because of that weird counting principle. So it's 17 over 2. A sub 1 is 14. A sub n is 38. Okay, I need helpers. Pass out a spiral to everybody, please. Pass out a homework to everybody, please. And I will pass back your tests. And once you have all 3, you may go. Is McKenna here? Big hutch. Julian. 95.